Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place we discuss all things USMNT y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. Joining me once again, my co-host, Adrian. Adrian, what's good, bro?
Hey, how's it going, man? Out here, just going over la lista convocados that Jimmy released yesterday night. A couple of surprises, some notable omissions, one that I don't think anyone expects, but yeah, ready to chat about this Copa America bound.
Yeah, man, it's going to be two interesting matches, a home and away game, and then the CONCACAF Nations League qualifiers to qualify to the semifinals of that, which is going to be played later in 2024, early 2024. But as we know, these games also have another repercussion that they are qualifiers for the Copa America 2024, right? So double um, reward for the winners of these matches. Mexico's playing Honduras on Friday, November 17th, and then they will play Honduras again on Tuesday, November 21st. So like you said, man, Jimmy did release his lista de convocados, and yeah, I guess we want to kind of go through those and give our thoughts. And why don't you start us off with porteros, man?
Sure, I think no brainer here. You have Guillermo Ochoa, Luis Malagón from America, Toño Rodriguez from Tijuana. Uh, Pretty much standard. I mean, I don't think it's gonna change anytime soon.
Right.
As much as I want to say that Toño Rodriguez maybe doesn't belong here, Toño Rodriguez by all means has had a very decent season this year. I mean, I guess this apertura, so kind of tough for Carlos Acevedo right now.
Yeah, and I think even if Acevedo was called up, I don't think anybody's for these two matches and the importance of these matches. I don't think anybody's starting over Guillermo Ochoa. So yeah, I mean, like you said, no real surprises here. I think it's three goalkeepers that are expected at this point. So why don't we kind of get into some of the deeper position wise here, defenses. What do you got for us here?
So defenders, we have Cesar Montes from Almería, Gerardo Arteaga from Genk, Johan Vázquez from Genoa, Jesús Gallardo from Monterrey, Israel Reyes from América, Jorge Sánchez from Porto, Jesús Angulo from Tigres, and Julián Araujo from UD Palmas. I think also straightforward. I don't think there's. I mean, there's definitely a few things that we will later on discuss, but closely similar to the last call up in October.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest changes are Jesus Angulo and Israel Reyes. But other than that, I mean, we remain with that solid line of four with Cesar Montes, Vasquez, Gallardo, and either Jorge Sanchez or Julián Araujo. I think this is pretty much, albeit maybe not the best card. I guess sorry, deck of defenses, of defenders. Sorry, but perhaps the strongest one they can put right now.
Yeah, it's close. If it's not the best, it's close to the best. I mean, I don't think they're missing too much, right? I mean, you have Cesar Montes, Arteaga, Vasquez, who most of these guys have been called are the main guys in
Yeah.
defense, and they're similar to what was called up back in October. So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we'll get into some of the. There are some minor surprises here, which we'll discuss as soon as we're done reviewing the rest of the list here. But in medios, man. Why don't you go down the list for us here?
Of course, El Machín Alvarez from West Ham, Eric Sanchez from Pachuca, El Chiquito, who's been having I mean, no, Pachuca is not having a great apertura, but individually speaking, he is on fire. Orbelín Pineda with EK Athens, Luis Romo from Monterrey, Luis Chavez and Dinamo Moscow, who just recently scored a goal. Marcel Ruiz from Toluca, Sebastián Córdoba from Tigres, and the return of Roberto El Piojo Alvarado from Chivas. Yeah, a I guess. Well, last October we didn't see Piojo Alvarado, and now we see him
Right.
here. I'm not gonna say he's uncalled for, but I mean, I have my opinions about El Piojo, and other than that, every single one of the other players definitely deserve being called up here. Luis Romo has been in stellar form for Monterrey in the last maybe 10 matches. Uh, the other players that I haven't mentioned on Orolin Pineda, Edsonalvarez, Marcel Ruiz are pretty much constant on their clubs, and they have had a decent form throughout this year 2023. So definitely well deserved call ups.
Yeah, I think we did our October preview. We kind of discussed that the omission of El Piojo Alvarado was kind of interesting, just because he was someone who was called up all through the summer, and we kind of thought he had become a mainstay, and then
Yeah,
he was omitted in October. So yeah, I mean it's not crazy surprising seeing him back in, but it is after not being in October friendlies, you're kind of questioning. I wonder what he did to get pulled back in, right?
yeah.
Um, who do you got for us for delanteros, bro?
Strikers, man. I think this is where every single eltri fan will get their I guess, high hopes. Because we have El Bebote, Santiago Jimenez, Irving El Chucky Lozano, RJ9 from Fulham, César El Chino Huerta, El Mohamed Salah Mexicano, and Henry Martin, Aurel Antuna, and one player that we have been pretty much calling up for the last couple of months. It's a long time coming. Julian Quiñones from America. He just got the formalized call up from Mexico. Duro Davino mentioned that Colombia actually also called him up for these November FIFA matches, friendly matches,
Wow.
but they told him, hey, you know what? He went through the change of federation, it got approved, and he has accepted to represent Mexico as an international player.
Too late, Colombia.
Yeah,
Waited too late.
too
So,
long. Yeah.
question for you: Is it time, how Chicharito said, to imaginar cosas chingonas?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's I think yeah. Let's buy him. Let's buy that speech. I think this is the time that we can start thinking of cosas chingonas. Let's imagine best things that we can that can happen. Definitely, it seems like Mexico's gonna have a competitive squad for when Copa America comes by, and having Luis Quiñones, sorry, not Luis Quiñones, my bad, Julian Quiñones is a booster for the Mexican offensive.
Yeah, no, that offense is looking scary, man. I mean, you got Chucky, Santi, Raúl, Jimenez, Huerta, Martin, Quiñones now adds to that. Jeez, yeah, definitely. It's gonna be interesting when we do our preview. I really want to see how you what you think, how Jimmy lines them up if he starts Quiñones, and what formation he'll play with his new toys now that he has available to him. But yeah, man, let me. You mentioned some surprises here. There's not a lot, I don't think, that we have to really dive into. A lot of this is, who we know now. Jimmy's sticking with. He's kind of developing his core of players, right? But definitely, I think there were a couple that we kind of wanted to go through. Starting with Israel Reyes, right?
Yeah, I mean, Israel Reyes is not a uncommon name in Jimmy Lozano's roster, but it surprises me because this Apertura season has not been great for him. Out of the 17 matches that that ligamx has gone through, he has only played on 6, and out of those 6, I think he started on all 6, but 6 games out of 17 is very little. Uh, in the middle of the season, he was practically not being even called up for the bench. I am unsure if it was due to an injury or not, but he is definitely not Jardinez's first name in the roster to be the starting center back in America. So it just it's interesting to me to see his name. I wonder why Jimmy Lozano is calling him up. I don't know if Jimmy Lozano is calling him up because he feels comfortable with him. Uh, I am unsure if he's a plurifunctional player. I believe he can play also as a central defensive midfielder. I remember him playing like that in Puebla, and he's also a center back that can join the offensive drives with ease. So again, it's not strange to see him here, but it's just a little bit surprising because I can tell you a few names that I think are in better form right now and that should be ahead of him uh, for being
Yeah.
called up for the 3.
I mean, to be fair to him, America's, super leader right now. They're playing amazing, and he normally doesn't start. Like you said, he starts, what's the name, Cáceres, right, and Del Castillo back in the center back normally,
Yeah.
and yeah, he just hasn't found a way to really become you know, Israel Reyes that we've seen in the past, and the one that you know, constantly starts matches for America. So I mean, yeah, I'm right there with you, man. So for somebody that's not getting consistent playing time and be called up, I'm sure he won't start for Mexico. But I mean, it's more or less just a squad player at this point.
Yeah. hmm
Who else you got for us, man? On surprises.
On the same note, Jesus Angulo, he is a constant starting player for Tigres, right? That's not a question. He normally starts as a left back, but his last few matches with Tigres, especially the loss against Tijuana and the tie against San Luis, man, he looks roughed out there. This hasn't been a strong season for him, even though Tigres is right now in third place. Um, but yeah, it's on these last two matches that I saw uh, between Tigres, Cholos, and San Luis. He had a lot of difficulties with very fast pace players as well as fast paced players that have good technique with their feet. So I don't think Honduras has those kind of players, but it just it's my question is why is he calling him up? Right, he's not gonna start over Gerardo Arteaga or Jesus Gallardo, and I just wonder if he's getting called up because he is a well-known plurifunctional player. That he's one of those scarce left foot left I think it's, yeah
Mm-hmm.
left foot center backs, and he can also play as a left back. Although being as a left back, he's not the best one as going in the offensive. He's very strong defensively speaking. But yeah, I'm just confused, I guess, on these two call-ups, man.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, strangely enough, these two guys that we just talked about, they play tomorrow, November 11th. America plays Tigres, so
Yeah.
that's going to be a hell of a match. So make sure y'all guys tune into that. But yeah, I mean, again, another player just like Israel Reyes who probably won't get playing time this window and is definitely just being called in for a squad player at this point. Um, I guess here, as we continue with surprises, there was one that you kind of highlighted here. That we kind of talked about already, but one of the mediocampistas, El Piojo Alvarado. What surprises you here? How
I
long do we
mean,
got?
I don't know what's yeah, it's before anything before the PPG's Chica Hermanos, sorry, Chiva Hermanos start saying anything. I think Piojo Alvarado has had a more than a decent season with Guadalajara this apertura, and I think it's fair that he's getting called up. Right? Don't get me wrong. Um, I think there's better players than him for sure, which we'll discuss in a minute. But I just it's a surprise to me because he requested to not get called up during October because of everything that was going on with Chivas and Paunovic, and he wanted to be at the club until things settled down. Now that things have settled down, he is playing all right. He's playing good, but there are other players in ligamx who are either at his exact level of performance, or even slightly above him. So I just wonder if this is Jimmy Lozano playing favorites, or he really thinks that Piojo Alvarado has the skills he needs on that specific position. He's not going to start ahead of a Chucky Lozano or El Antuna. He's a squad player. But then again, why not bring in someone who is either at the same level or above?
Yeah, that's currently playing better than him. I mean, like you said, he's not playing horrible. He's playing decent. But yeah, I think I know who you're referencing. That we'll talk to for notable omissions here as we continue with this episode. The one last surprise here, which is kind of not really a surprise, but it's a good surprise
Mm-hmm.
for most people. Julian Quiñones, his paperwork has finally been submitted, approved. He's finally wearing la verde. It's been a long time coming, man. How excited are you for this?
I am super pumped. Not gonna lie, man. I'm not gonna dabble into if it's all right to call up naturalizados or not, or if eltri is supposed, I guess, supposed only to be for or available for Mexican-born players. I don't care about that all that politics and all that nonsense. To me, is if you have a chance to call up the best players to represent Mexico, whether they are naturalizados or not, you should go ahead and do it. Right? You have other teams in the world doing the same thing. Globalization is happening, man. Become a laggard if you don't do it. Now, that rant aside, I think this is a huge impact for El Mexico offensive, or for Mexico's offensive. Sorry. Um, I know that a lot of people think that this is going to be detrimental for El Bebote and maybe Henry Martin and maybe RJ9, but I personally think that this impacts other areas of the offensive. I think this will be a huge wake up call maybe for the likes of Fidel Antuna and Piojo Alvarado because, Julian Quiñones, while he can play as a striker, he can play as a number 9. His best performances don't come as a striker or a central forward. They come as a right wing. When you look at his time at Atlas or even right now with America, he is not a second striker. He plays on the wing and he takes advantage of those spaces that the striker makes when they hold the ball. So I think he will be a great complement for Raul Jimenez, for Henry Martin. I'm not too sure about Santigimenez because he's not a post, right? He's not like a number 9 who is able to retain the ball. Santigimenez likes to play forward, um, but definitely opens up the perspective for Jimmy Lozano to play different strategies against the opposition.
Yeah, he's definitely a high utility player. I mean, we've seen him, like you said, play right wing. We've seen him play number 9 for America, and he even sometimes plays the number 10 role behind Henry Martin for America. So he's known to have been playing, all those three triangle up top roles. So definitely going to be a good acquisition for Mexico, and just something that again adds more competition to the forwards, right? That definitely need up there.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
So, as we go through this list, man, I know there was 3 standout notable omissions for you. Why don't you run through those with us?
Yeah, the two. I mean, I'm gonna go. There's three, but I'm gonna spend more time with the last one. The first two, and I think these are obvious to me. Maybe not for every single selección mexicana fan, but Victor El Toro Guzman from Monterrey, he is in a stellar form, dude. I mean, it baffles me how Jimmy Lozano is not calling him up for this match. He did call him up in October. Unfortunately, he had to go back to Monterrey due to an injury that he picked up during training. But after that, it's been a month, and he is been killing it with Monterrey. He is only 21 years old. He's one of those youngsters that has more than 100 games in ligamx, which is very odd to see on a player with less than 23 years of age. So this is one of those names that I can mention or say that are ahead of Israel Reyes. I don't know what Jimmy's thinking. I hope that he's not playing favorites, but Victor Guzman is definitely a notable omission. Um,
Yeah,
the
and somebody
second,
that definitely,
go
I
for it.
mean, you look at
Mhm.
Israel Reyes, who's also, very young, right? He's 23, but Victor Guzman, 21 years old, just an impressive resume, right? I mean,
Yeah,
and killing it from Monterrey at the time. Yeah, definitely a weird omission for sure. Sorry, I interrupted you. Go for it for your second guy.
no worries, man. And the next one is one of those players that a lot of people like. I'm not a huge fan of him, but I do have to admit that he is been an outstanding for Tigres, and this is El Factor Lainez. I think he deserves a call up ahead of Piojo Alvarado. If you look at his stats with Tigres, they might not be the best ones, but if you pay close attention to those uh, offensive creation stats, passing, and also dribbling one on ones, he is very strong on those areas. I am unsure if he's statistically speaking better than El Piojo Alvarado in all of them, but I can tell you that he definitely should have been called up at least as a squad player. I would definitely pick him up ahead of El Piojo Alvarado, and not because I'm a fan of Tigres, but because I truly believe, unbiasedly, that he is ahead of El Piojo Alvarado.
Yeah, I think when he was being called up earlier in the year, Piojo Alvarado was ahead of him.
Yeah,
When he was having a horrible first, clausura with Tigres, right? And now in this apertura, he's kind of coming to his own, and he's firing, he's scoring goals, he's assisting, and it looks like he finally arrived at Tigres, and
yeah,
finally feeling comfortable in Liga MX again. So yeah, I agree with you. That's a notable one for sure. Even, I mean, maybe even not Piojo Alvarado, maybe somebody. take one less defender, put him in, bring him. I mean, he definitely deserves a spot, I think. So who's your final one, man? The one you kind of wanted to highlight for us?
This last one is it's a very unheard of or uncommon name in eltri's I guess a sphere or ether. Um, his name is Antonio Portales, and I think we mentioned him earlier this summer when we were doing our review on European transfers, if I'm not mistaken. And we mentioned two players that went from Liga de Expansión to the Scottish Premier League at Dundee FC. And Antonio Portales is one of those players. He is a right back. He is a starting player for Dundee. If I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but and PPG Nation, please hold me accountable to this. But I think he has played pretty much almost every single match that he's been available for Dundee FC. He has settled in the team as as a butter knife on room temperature butter. He is just outstandingly killing it at Dundee FC. I understand that Mexico has plenty of coverage on that area of the pitch because we have Jorge Sanchez and Julian Araujo, which, yes, they might be playing at better leagues and maybe perhaps better teams. But he should be definitely ahead of the likes of Kevin Alvarez, or just giving him the chance, right? I think this is one of those weird um, instances where we see a Mexican player killing it in Europe, and even though he's not playing on in a top 5 league, but he's playing in a top 10 European league, and he's not getting called up. So I'm just confused, I guess that's the correct word, on why Jimmy Lozano is not following him closer. I think it's time for him to get called up. I really hope he gets called up in the December friendly against Colombia. But this is one of those guys that he is severely underrated, very under the radar, kind of like a underground name, and I'm gonna push for him in the next few lista de convocados. Man, if I don't see him, I'm just gonna keep on calling him up. He's an honorable mission for me.
Um, yeah, no, I agree with you definitely. One of the 2 points that I want to kind of discuss that you made there. Scottish Premier League. That I mean, it doesn't get a lot of coverage. Obviously, it doesn't get a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's not sexy like the APO, the La Liga, whatever, right? You mentioned that you think the Scottish Premier League is top 10 European league. You think so?
Well, it isn't. It doesn't really matter what I think. If I'm not mistaken, the latest UEFA ranking classified the Scottish Premier League in the top 10. And if
Really?
I'm wrong, yeah, and if I'm wrong, I mean, I guess I can do a quick search right now to correct myself, and you feel free to edit a clown face over me if I'm mistaken. But if I'm right, I believe the Scottish Premier League is on the top 10 in Europe.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Let me see him. You're right. It is number 10.
Exactly. So,
Okay.
I mean, right? You're calling you. So here's my argument for that, man. It's like you're calling Luis Chavez, who
Mm-hmm.
is playing in Russia, and if I'm not mistaken, even though Russia has a lot, yes, Russia has a lot of like political challenges that may
Mm-hmm.
be interfering with its ranking in
Mm-hmm.
European football. But I think they're ranking like the 25th percentile, or well, not
Yeah.
percentile, but the
26th.
26th
Yeah.
place. So you're calling up a player that is on the 26th place in the European ranking, and I think you're also calling up a player who is and I think on the 16th ranked European league in the name of Aurelien Pineda, the Greek league. It's outside of the
Yeah.
top 10
19th.
leagues.
Yeah.
Here we go. So, like, what else does he need, right? What else does Antonio Portales need to do to shed some light onto his great performances at Dundee?
Yeah. No. All right. You sold me on it, man. I didn't realize the Scottish Premier League was that highly ranked. Um, I guess what's it called? Celtic and Rangers really carry that like up.
Yes, they do.
But yeah, I mean, no, definitely Antonio Portales, somebody for the future to watch there. I think he's a 27, 26, so decently, good age for a center back, right?
Yeah.
So definitely still has an opportunity to be called up for. Has he been called up for La Selección before at all?
No, no, he hasn't. I mean, he started with the Monterrey Academy. His debut was with Monterrey. Then he went bouncing around through different ligamx teams, and he ended up playing for Atlanta in Liga Expansión, and that's when he came to his peak, I guess, as a footballer. Sorry, and he caught the attention of Dundee FC.
I wonder if we're going to see in the future more European teams kind of look at Liga Expansión for players,
Man,
because we
that'll be
know,
dope, honestly.
yeah, we know they're a lot cheaper than and less expensive than having to
Yes.
go through Liga MX.
Hmm.
Um, but cool, man. Yeah, a strong roster. I think there's going to be a lot of polemica and big problems if Mexico somehow doesn't beat Honduras. I completely don't see how that doesn't happen. I'm sure it's going to be a fairly straightforward match for Mexico there. Considering the roster they bring in. But
Yes.
Adrian, man, yeah. As we wrap this episode up, brother, where can our listeners find us, dude?
Yeah, they can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Puro Pinche Gol. We post stuff every now and then.
Yeah, and make sure to let us know in the comments below. What do you guys are you guys have any certain surprises or omissions from this Mexico roster? We like listening to you guys on that, and listening to your comments on reading your comments, responding and interacting with you guys on that for sure. Not a real big changed roster like we mentioned, but definitely one that has a couple items. And let us know below if you guys are excited for Julian Quiñones. We'll yeah, definitely interact with you guys in the comments, man. Adrian, man, another great one with you, brother. I'll be seeing you.
Always a pleasure, dude. Take it easy.
Likewise, man. See ya.